So I kind of want to talk about validation today, and I think it's something that we all want. It's something we all, as humans, want to have and need, and we want to be accepted by others. Who doesn't want to be accepted by others? You never want to be the one left out. Recently, on July 4th this year, I went to a party at a friend's house, and I knew some of the people there, which was nice, and we've been friends for a long time. But there was a neighborhood kid who also came over to the party, which is cool. Fine. I would love to meet some new people. He came up to us, said hi, super like straight into it, which is cool. I wish I could just go straight into a conversation like he did. So I was like, all right, this is cool. He's a pretty chill kid, whatever. So we start talking, and there's like a group of 3 or 4 of us, and we start talking, and then he just starts going into like a lot of stuff he's done, which is cool, but nobody really asked about it. He started talking about like a book he was writing, which is cool. He started talking about his car washing business. He started talking about girls and all that stuff, but it was just like really uncalled for, and nobody really asked about it. It just was really awkward the way he told us about it. And you might have experienced this before, where somebody's just like telling you everything, but you didn't really ask to talk about it. They just start throwing it at you, and you're like, I don't know what you're trying to do. But I was like, all right, whatever. He's probably just trying to fit in, which I get. People do it. I've done this a couple times, but not to the extent he was at. I usually try and throw it in there naturally, which I'm working on, which is sort of why I want to do this video, because I think a lot of us try and seek validation when we don't even need to do it, or we try and force other people to listen to us when we should be listening to them and having the conversation flow naturally. It doesn't really make sense to just start throwing stuff at people who don't genuinely care, because you're wasting energy and time. And there's no point in doing that, because it doesn't make sense to do that. So at the party, we're just hanging out, and he keeps talking about his stuff, and I'm like, all right, whatever. We go out to play some cornhole, whatnot, and I was like, you know what? I know I didn't ask for it, but I'm just gonna talk to this kid about what he's done. So we started having a conversation, and I started getting to know what his business is, whatever. It's just a startup. He's just having fun with it, making some extra cash on the side. Totally fine. But once I sort of figured out what was happening and how he was acting, I was like, all right, you know what? I've caught myself in situations where I end up just throwing stuff at people who probably don't really care. So I told myself, like, you know what? I'm not going to mention a single thing that I do. I'm not going to mention my video business. I'm not going to mention any other like cool aspects of my life. I know it sounds weird, but that was just something I personally wanted to do, because it's a habit that I sort of want to break, and I don't want to make a conversation awkward if I'm just throwing information out that they don't even care about, like how I felt talking to this kid. And so I did. I didn't really say anything, which normally if somebody's like talking about the cool stuff, you're like, oh yeah, I do stuff like that too. When he mentioned his washing business, I was like, oh yeah, I should talk about my video business. But I didn't want to do that, because again, I'm trying to break the habit of throwing stuff out there that they didn't ask for. I think throughout the entire conversation I had with him, and my friends had with this kid, was that it felt very showy-offy. And I think sometimes when we're in conversation with people, we want to try and show off or try and one-up people, which isn't really necessary. And it just sort of has this conflict of interest that's just like, who is better, basically. And there's no reason for that. We're all just a person who is trying to live through life, and there's no point in trying to be better than somebody else. When you're equal, you're just a human. And that was one thing that I learned from that event, was just to not try and be showy-offy, not trying to one-up people when it's not necessary. I think we do it without even knowing, which was another big thing. That's why I was very happy that I realized what was happening, and I didn't want to do it as well. And it's something that in the future I want to keep an eye out for, so that I can better myself as well in the future. And I would challenge you to do that too. Find time in conversations where you're like, oh crap, I just probably said a little too much than I should have, and they probably don't really care what I do. And if they ask what you do, cool, tell them. But there's no reason to be like, hey man, what's your name? Yeah, so I run a 6-figure video production business. Like, nobody cares, nobody asks for it. But a lot of times it can come off that way, and it's always about how the person receives it and not about how you meant to say it, if that makes sense. So if you said it a certain way and you meant them to interpret it one way, but they interpreted it a completely different way, then what you just said probably doesn't make sense with what you were trying to say, and therefore nothing really happened. I think the big key thing about the event was that I seek validation without even realizing it. And I think a lot of us do, and we have no idea we just did that. So I think a good learning point, and something I want to start doing, is during conversations and after the conversation, did I actively try and tell people things that either one-up them, they didn't ask for, or was a seeking of validation and acceptance with others. And it's something that I just want to work on personally, and I figured I'd share it with you guys, and maybe you would look into your own life and see if maybe that's something you would want to work on as well. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like, and let me know in the comments if you've ever had this issue where you end up seeking validation and you didn't even realize it.